got a question for you, because you give ideas as to how the sacraments can be administered in a safe way.
Yeah.
I go to a Byzantine Catholic church in which the Holy Eucharist is administered by spoon. How would you recommend? Suppose I presume you think Holy Mass could be celebrated in a safe way or in a prudent way. How should the Eucharist be administered? Obviously in the Byzantine Church, having a golden spoon placed in your mouth, you try not to touch it with your tongue, but obviously it's going to be. I've heard some suggestions about maybe some kind of disposable wooden spoons for each person. Have people asked you that kind of question? Like, would it be better that people receive on the tongue or receive in the hand in this kind of climate? What's your thoughts on this?
Priests are very funny about this. It's fun to watch them go back and forth on Facebook, etc. Many priests say that it's so much easier to give communion when people are on their knees and on the tongue, because they open their mouth and you kind of just drop it in, and there's no touching. If you fear that there's been touching, then you immediately get a hand sanitizer or an alcoholic wipe, or alcohol. I don't know if wipes aren't alcoholic, are they? Anyway, so you use.
I haven't become that desperate yet since the alcohol stores are open.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think I'm not. Someone said you really shouldn't use disposable spoons because nothing that touches the sacred should be disposable.
Ooh, amen.
And that, I mean, that's the sort of thing. See, these are conversations we need to have. What is liturgically proper? What is canonically proper? And what is safe? All right. Reasonably safe. And I have a picture. We have one picture on there that it is from the 18th century of a pestilence or plague in 18th century France, with a priest who has about a 6 foot long spoon that he puts the Eucharist at the end of it, and there's a woman in the window who's receiving it. But above it, there's like 5 different possibilities that use, and one of them is tongs. All right. And they still exist. When I was a child, there was a time when it was really fashionable to have sugar cubes on your table.
Yes.
And so you would have these beautiful silver tongs so that you could pick up one of those sugar cubes. Well, it seems to me you can use a set of those beautiful tongs and pick up the Eucharist. And again, if you want the 6 feet distance, you could have a person 3 feet away from you, and your arm's about 3 feet, and you could reach it out and put the Blessed Sacrament gently on their hand. Try to make certain that you don't touch their hand with the tongs. Even perhaps they have to bring some sort of paten that they can put under their hands so that it's not. I would love a paten now under our hands, but again, maybe when you stretch your hand, or it's easier to drop or miss. So you make certain that you've done everything you can that doesn't happen, but you. And then you, if need be, you sanitize the tongs in between deliverance or distribution of the Eucharist. I think that's a good one. Again, if they were kneeling, the priest goes up and down. We're 6 feet apart. The priest is obviously going to be closer than 6 feet to each person. But again, if we are very careful, no coughing, no touching, no this, I would like to know, is that how much of a risk really is that? All right. If he wears a mask, what is necessary? If he wears gloves, and again, he's not touching, it's only that he won't get it on his hands and then get it on his face. I would love to have some people work this through, and this, again, the bishop should be calling up.
And the problem is we don't have much time to work this through, I guess, as well, right? I mean, the church tends to move in glacial speed, but we need kind of to be discussing this and coming up with solutions now.
I don't think it's that hard. I mean, honestly, it seems to me that everybody's doing nothing these days. So we're at the bishop's disposal to brainstorm as much as possible. I'm sure doctors will put their hygienic techniques to the service of the church and to help us figure out how to do this safely. And if you can't do it, if they decide there's absolutely no way that there's a safe way to distribute communion, then you don't. All right. We're not necessarily demanding communion. We're requesting communion if it's reasonably safe, or there's reasonably safe methods to distribute it. If there aren't, don't. But that's no reason to close the churches. That's no reason not to have masses in a parking lot. Right?
And what are you suggesting, though, if certain counties have been totally locked down except for essential travel, by which I think the state means grocery stores and hospital, things like this. Are you asking the bishops to go against the law here?
Not
they
yet.
have? Not yet.
Not yet. But I mean, but I think that they need. I heard of in a diocese where the bishop had a teleconference with his priest, and one priest said, "Well, I would like to do a mass in the parking lot." And he said, "No." And I said, and I asked him, I said, "What was the reason given?" He said, "Well, our state has said there can be no large public gatherings." And I said, "Did he call the governor's office? Did he call the attorney general's office and explain what we were doing? We're all coming in our cars and staying in our cars. We get from our house to our car, go to a parking lot, don't get out of the car, drive back to the house, go into the house. How is that dangerous? All right, it's more dangerous if I go for a walk and I walk by some small children if I have it, or an old person like myself, and I cough and they get, that's more dangerous. There's nothing dangerous about my getting in a car and going to a parking lot and coming back. Could the bishops call them up? And if they got a no answer, they should make this public. I tried and I got a no answer. I'm not happy with that. I would like all of you to write letters to the governor, telling the governor that this is something we consider to be essential. The state of Texas has made, the legislature voted that religious assemblies are essential, right? They're essential.
Go
Abortion
Texas.
are essential. Liquor stores are essential. Why isn't being in the presence of the Eucharist? It really is a matter of religious freedom. So it's a matter. We are not being allowed to practice our faith within the due, safe guidelines that the experts have designed. If we can do that, we're denied our practice of our faith.
Hey, if you enjoyed that clip, you will absolutely love the full interview, so click right there to enjoy the whole thing. Also, a big thanks to these groups who made that interview possible. Learn more in the show notes below about these guys. They're absolutely incredible and honored to have them as sponsors. Oh, and also, if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe and then that bell button. That way YouTube will be forced to let you know when we put out more content.